Winston purchased this totaled Model 3 from a wrecking yard and rebuilt it himself in his garage. Once the car was completely rebuilt, he plugged in a USB drive and retrieved the footage stored locally on the Tesla's computer, finally revealing how the car had been totaled. The footage shows the former owner driving along when another car suddenly appeared from the right. With no opportunity to stop, the Tesla driver T-boned the other driver on the driver's side. The Tesla was a total loss and was sold to Winston by Geico Insurance. Winston won the auction for $15,000 before setting out to build the cheapest Tesla in the US.
The damage isn't horrible. Airbags went off. I ordered new ones of those. Car's off.
The total cost of repairing it was Wait, why'd you censor that? It was in repairs. The total cost was a shocking Oh, come on! Are we really going to make people wait until the end of the video to find out? Okay, fine. Stick to the end to hear about how he found the car, the work he did on it, and how much money he spent fixing it. Until then, let's see some more crashes and crazy videos. Samuel was sitting at a red light in Phoenix, Arizona. Just as the light turned green, a pickup truck pulling a trailer ran the red light. The driver of an oncoming Mitsubishi didn't notice the pickup and crashed into the side of it. Thankfully, both drivers were okay. Samuel waited for the police to arrive. When they did, he told them he had footage of the accident. When one of the cops saw that Samuel had a Tesla, he volunteered to be the one to collect the footage. He jumped into the Tesla with Samuel and they talked for a while about all its neat features. The officer told Samuel that he was planning on getting a Model Y himself. After a few minutes, Samuel asked, "Did you want the footage of the crash?" The officer replied, "Oh yeah, that's what I was supposed to be doing. Sorry." Jess had parked her Model Y outside her workplace in Spokane, Washington when someone vandalized her Tesla and she thinks this Honda was involved. A Honda can be seen circling the block a couple of times before it slows down at the top of the hill. A few seconds later, a man is seen walking toward the Tesla. Jess thinks this guy might have been a passenger in the Honda, but she can't be sure, and the license plates weren't visible in the video, so this may not be a very useful lead. The man crossed the street, picked up a rock, then headed back over to where Jess's Tesla was parked. First, he walked up to the car parked in front of her Tesla and smashed the driver's side windows before walking toward the Tesla. Just as he walked past it, another car approached, so he casually strolled along before checking if the coast was clear. At that point, the Honda came circling back. Just as it passed, the guy bent down and picked up another rock. He walked up to the passenger side of the Tesla and hurled the rock through the front window. Just as he threw the rock, the Honda stopped at the top of the hill. As the alarm activated, the guy got scared and ran home to mommy. Sorry, but this is just so pathetic. Jess filed an insurance claim and the repair estimate came to $2,000 since the rock also damaged the window trim. It'll take weeks to repair it thanks to supply chain shortages. $2,000 for a pane of glass and a piece of trim. I bet you're really wondering how much Winston had to pay to rebuild his Tesla. Jess filed a police report and also gave a copy of the video to her workplace security so they could be on the lookout for the guy. Kieran parked his 2-week-old Model Y far away from all other cars to avoid door dings, but that didn't stop the cart demon from targeting his car. Let's be honest, are we sure this was the work of the cart demon, or could it have been the work of a lazy shopper? Let's find out how the cart got there. There we have it. A BMW driver was too lazy to return her cart to the corral, leaving it in front of her car and driving off instead. Seconds later, it rolled into and damaged Kieran's brand new car. Who was at fault here, the cart demon or the BMW driver? Leave your thoughts in a comment. Brandon was driving to work one morning when a tire was in the middle of the road. One driver was able to maneuver around it, but the next one didn't see it in time and ran over it, sending debris flying. The tire then bounced before hitting another vehicle. Brian was on his way to drop off his 2 boys at school when they saw a police officer standing on his motorcycle. Brian told us they were hoping he was gonna pull a stunt in front of the Tesla, but instead they realized he was trying to get a better view of something. He spotted another driver doing something nobody should do, especially in a school zone. texting and driving. Brian wanted to shout out his boys Connor and Cameron, ages 7 and 9. Watching the newest Wham Bam episodes has become their Sunday morning ritual. Chris was driving his Model Y in Centerville, Virginia. Just as he passed a fire station, he witnessed a collision in the intersection up ahead. Chris is a firefighter himself, so he immediately called the station to let them know what had happened so they could get ready to respond to the call. Since the accident didn't look too severe, and with the knowledge that his colleagues would be there moments later, he cleared the intersection and drove off. Lasse was driving his Model Y in Finland. He had autopilot engaged and set to 1 mile per hour over the speed limit. Apparently, a semi-truck driver didn't find that fast enough, so he decided to pass him. But he was surprised the truck driver didn't cancel his attempt after spotting an oncoming car. Lasse moved out to the shoulder and a collision was avoided. What a dumb move! Brent was heading home from Palo Alto. He was taking the Dumbarton Bridge east, heading to Newark, when he witnessed an accident in his rearview mirror. Brent immediately called 911 and reported the wreck. He gave them his information in case they wanted to follow up, but he never heard back from them. He saw other cars stopping, and it wasn't safe for him to turn around and render aid, so he kept going. He hopes everyone involved was okay. We searched the news and didn't find any reports, which hopefully means there weren't any serious injuries. Paul was driving in Denmark when he witnessed this week's Tesla behaving badly. He approached a Tesla Model 3 that was stopped behind a clearly marked driver's education vehicle. The Model 3 driver couldn't bring himself to give the student driver space and used his instant torque to squeeze in front of them when they hesitated while making a turn. I think this one definitely deserves the jingle.
That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive.
Vlad was driving his Model Y with autopilot engaged outside of Paris, France. An ambulance without emergency lights active suddenly changed lanes without signaling or checking for traffic. Vlad told us his Tesla dropped from 80 miles per hour to 70 and swerved to avoid a collision before he had time to react. Vlad's passengers later told him the ambulance driver was mortified and could see that he'd made a mistake. Zach was at his girlfriend's house when her sister hit Zach's Model 3 while backing out. It was at this moment she knew she f***ed up. Seriously though, we can tell she was devastated. In the end, it's just plastic and metal, and thankfully, everyone was safe. There are so many facial expressions in this video. This could be the most dramatic Teslacam video so far. I don't think it even needs any voiceover. Let's run it again, but with a more theatrical feel. Palmer was driving his Model Y in Austin, Texas, when a sudden slowdown in the left lane caused a Chevy SUV to create what he calls some classic Texas mayhem. Palmer was taking his daughter to the airport and was running an hour late thanks to the daylight saving time change, so he was unable to stop and share his video, but he did call 911 to report the collision. By sending us the video, he's hoping it might reach the people involved and help them out with their insurance claims. Brian had just turned onto Highway 36 late one night when a trucker tried to make a U-turn across the dark highway. Brian noticed it at the last second and had to swerve off the road to avoid hitting it. Brian told us he wasn't using autopilot and the system didn't give him any alerts even when he went off-road. Is this trucker even worse than the one from Finland? We'll run a poll over in our patron-only Discord server. Nancy was headed to the grocery store to buy supplies for her new YouTube cooking channel, Cooking Together with Nancy, when a Honda CR-V driver ran a red light and T-boned a Toyota Camry, which then hit a Toyota CHR. The Honda CR-V ultimately hit a pole just outside of view on the right. Since Nancy was already slowing down, no autopilot intervention took place. Everyone involved was okay, and Nancy provided this video to the Camry driver for their insurance claim. She wonders if this was more of a Honda bash than a Honda bump, but I'm gonna go ahead and call it a Honda bump. After having his Model Y for a couple of months and learning all about rolling coal, Dennis has been on the lookout for when it would happen to him. It didn't take long. He saw this pickup driver trying to move through traffic, then crowding him. It was pretty obvious he was trying to get ahead of Dennis. Traffic was heavy and slow, so when Dennis put on his right turn signal after over a mile, the pickup driver gave it his best shot. Here's another video Dennis sent us. This time, he'd stopped for a pedestrian in the crosswalk when he heard a high-pitched honk behind him, looked in his mirror, and saw a motorcycle. Dennis thinks the biker must have not seen the pedestrian, but we think he got frustrated after nearly tipping over while trying to simultaneously find the horn button and put his feet down. When the road was clear, Dennis lined up for a hard punch of the throttle, knowing the biker didn't stand a chance. Dennis backed off after reaching the speed limit, giving the biker a chance to catch up. Watch the front of the bike lift up and drop back down as the biker hits the gas and then shifts gears. He couldn't hide it when he looked back to see what had beaten him, giving a one-finger salute as he passed. Dennis's submission streak isn't over because exactly 1 week later, a Cadillac rear-ended his wife while she was driving their Tesla. It looks like the driver didn't hit the brakes. Instead, her car applied automatic emergency braking, but it wasn't fast enough. The police were called and the Caddy driver got a ticket. She did not, however, call her insurance provider and had given them a bad phone number. Dennis's wife had to call the insurance provider multiple times before they finally got a hold of her. 2.5 months and almost $7,000 later, the Tesla was finally fixed with a new rear hatch, bumper cover, and some other small parts. Welcome to the inner circle of Tesla owners, Dennis. You've been coal-baptized, you've smoked a high-performance vehicle, and of course, you've had your crash featured on Wham Bam Teslacam. Jacob was driving to school during the morning rush hour on I-15 in stop-and-go traffic. Suddenly, he heard and felt the car behind him rear-end his Tesla. Jacob stopped for a second, then pulled over, but the other driver took off. Thankfully, the license plate was captured on video, which he provided to the CHP and to his insurance provider. The registered owner of the vehicle lives in San Diego, and the police investigation is still ongoing. Jacob's Tesla was deemed a total loss, and on that note, it's almost time to see how Winston's rebuild is going. If the insurance provider decided to total this car and give Jacob a check for $50,000 instead of fixing it, what do you think Winston will be up against? We've got one more crash to watch before we find out. Matthew was driving his Model 3 in Millsboro, Delaware when an F-150 driver failed to stop. Matthew slammed on the brakes as hard as he could, but he didn't have time to avoid an accident. Matthew smashed into the side of the pickup, and we can even see the airbags going off inside the truck. All the airbags in the Tesla deployed. Once the dust settled, Matthew got out and spoke with the other driver. First responders arrived, and Matthew began feeling some pain in his elbow. He was taken away in an ambulance, and it turned out his elbow had been fractured. The pickup driver was found responsible, and Matthew's Tesla sustained extensive damage to the front end, which the other driver's insurance provider paid for.
Wham Bam Garage.
Alright everyone, you join me outside my 2018 Tesla Model 3.
Okay, back to Winston's rebuild story from the beginning of the video. Incredibly, Winston is only 18 years old. His obsession with Tesla started when he first began watching Rich Rebuilds videos a couple of years ago. Eventually, he dreamed of owning his own Tesla. He pored over online forums, Twitter, and even a Discord server about salvaging Teslas. While spending his nights reading about rebuilding Teslas, he spent his days working at Chick-fil-A to save his money for the project. After a year or so, his parents asked him to rebuild a Tesla for their family. He was thrilled. Around 6 months of searching auction sites later, he finally found the perfect one. It took about 3 months to rebuild the car, and his family now has a 2018 Model 3 long range. They all fight over who gets to drive it. So what was the total cost? He purchased the car for $15,000, spent $9,000 on parts and around $1,000 in taxes, so the total bill came to $25,000 US. He faced some very expensive problems that cost more than he anticipated, like replacing the dashboard airbag, which required replacing the entire dashboard itself. Winston told us he learned a lot during the rebuild. At times it was stressful as he was concerned about major parts breaking and costing more money than expected, but in the end it was well worth it. Thanks to his photographic memory, he's now so familiar with the Model 3 that he's pretty confident he could take the car back apart with no instructions at all, just using the knowledge in his brain. His dream is to work for Tesla's service department, and he actually applied for an internship this summer at his local service center in Liberty Lake, Washington. After 500 million views of our videos showcasing Tesla's incredible safety features, we've never once asked for or received anything from Tesla. Except for that one little cease and desist letter that one time, but we won't hold that against them. Well, we're finally going to ask Tesla for one favor. Please, if you're watching, give Winston a job. In the end, it didn't take the title for the cheapest Tesla in the US. Winston told us that now that he knows what he's doing, he could do it again for much less, and he plans to. He actually created a YouTube channel called Salvage V's where he'll be taking us along for the ride. Go check it out.